in studio with me today, being the 18th of May 2023. Today, by the way, we celebrate the International Day for Women in Maritime, and that is why we have lovely guests in studio with me. I have two ladies and one gentleman who are going to engage in a conversation about women in maritime. How are you?
You're doing good.
Thank you. You're all great.
Yes.
Welcome to Blue Radio. Thank you so much for coming in today to discuss about women in maritime. Would love to know your lovely names.
I'm Dorothy Mose. I work with Kenya Maritime Authority. I'm a marine engineer.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Dorothy.
I'm Ella Kiango. I work for Kenya Maritime Authority in the Commercial Shipping Department.
Oh, wow. Oh, great.
I'm Captain Munga Peter from Kenya Maritime Safety Directorate.
Kenya Maritime Safety?
Maritime Safety Directorate.
Directorate.
In the Kenya Maritime Authority.
Okay, nice to have you. And when you talk, what does maritime mean? Dorothy, if you might.
Maritime is an industry which is very broad. It entails any business or any work which is within the sea or which relates to the sea, either sailing or on land, so long as it is related with items or machineries which work in waters.
Okay.
Yes.
So anything that relates to sea is maritime.
Yes.
So what are some of these jobs or opportunities that we would want to classify under maritime? Ella?
Okay, well, under maritime, we'll have those opportunities for those who will work at sea. These are mostly the seafarers, where we have the different categories, with the main categories being those ones who will work as pilots on board ships, and those who will work as the engineers within the engine room. And then we also have on the land, we look at the entire maritime has their logistics chain. So we are looking at cargo was at sea, maybe moving from China all the way to the port of Mombasa. When this ship docks at the port of Mombasa, definitely that cargo, the port of Mombasa is not the final destination. That cargo will have to move to the final owner. So that is still part of the maritime logistics chain continuing. That is when we come in and we have opportunities under ship management. The shipping companies at the port of Mombasa, they need managers. These are now opportunities on the land. Logistics chain managers, these are the people that are on land. We have aspect of insurance, because this cargo somehow has to be insured when it's both at sea and when it is moving on the land. So there is the aspect of marine insurance. There is the aspect of transportation. It's still a sub-unit, or rather part of the maritime logistics chain. We will have aspect of transportation. This cargo will be stored somewhere in a warehouse where there will be management of process. This is still part of the opportunities that are there within the maritime sector. And then we also have other ventures as the offshore energy sector, where we have people involved in drilling, excavation, all that. These are still opportunities which are not entirely for the people who are on the sea, but also other people. We also have the business people, and also the fisher folks. This is still the maritime sector. We have people involved in seaweed farming. This is still part of the maritime sector. We also have people who are involved in using the products from the fish themselves, maybe to make shoes, to make belts, to make handbags, all that. This is still part of the ventures that are there in the maritime sector. So the opportunities are many. We can go on and on and on, but still you will still be having that opportunity within the maritime space. Yes.
Captain Peter, today being International Day for Women in Maritime, what does that speak to you as a man in maritime, for example?
Thank you very much. Actually, it is a day when to me, I feel it is a day when we need to sensitize women to make them aware of the opportunities that are available in maritime, particularly because if you look at the maritime sector, and here I'm speaking precisely on those who sail on ships and other vessels which operate at sea and in the lakes, you find that the number of women in those areas, there are not so many. And it's not because they lack the ability, but it's probably because there's negative talk about what actually goes on at sea. And also many of them also don't know that there are opportunities which they can engage in that could possibly be an opening into their careers. So this day we need to look at the women who are making big strides in the maritime industry and keep encouraging them, and probably for those who are interested in joining the maritime sector as well, to tell them that there is an opportunity out there, and you don't need to have the muscles and all these other things that are considered things that only men can engage in. So yeah, I think that should be the case.
What about you, Dorothy? What does this day mean to you as someone who's already in the maritime industry?
It's a great pleasure to have such like a day. The first time it started last year. This is the second one we have. It reminds us that we have opportunities on board vessels in maritime that we can do. In fact, the campaign of bringing women on board to maritime didn't start last year. It started all the way from 2008 when IMO had this Go to Sea. This campaign was to attract new people on board, and especially women, because of the agenda that they have, the Agenda 5 about equality, gender equality. So this is to assist and to assist the women to keep them aware of what is there on board vessels, what is there in the maritime, and what opportunities they can venture into. It's a good thing, especially for me now that I'm a woman and I'm in maritime. It shows it makes me feel appreciated, and makes me feel that there's someone who cares about me. Yeah.
Okay, we're going for a very short break, but when we come back, for Dorothy and Ella, I'd love to know, how did you even get into maritime? Was it something that you wanted from the word go, considering that you are women? And how was it for you? How was your first days, or how was the reception in the maritime sector? It is 10 a.m. here at Blue Radio. We are going for a very short break. When we come back, we are going to have this discussion on more about policies and what the government is doing to make sure that we accommodate women, and also what are some of the successful collaborations in the country and also in the industry of maritime. Don't go away. This is the Blue Radio.
You're listening to Blue Radio, bringing the vibe, playing you the best of East Africa urban music. This is Blue Radio. To advertise with us, write to us through info.blueradio@gmail.com or info@gelitixmedia.co.ke or call 0708 890 404. Visit our website www.gelitixmedia.co.ke or our radio website blueradio.co.ke.
Naogopa nisije kufa kisa mapenzi, naogopa naogopa unavyoninyanyasa siwezi naogopa. Wow, ni Daz Like You Do Chapa aka The Future, niko ndani ya The Blue Radio. Au sio, bringing the vibe next to you. Siondoke mtu wangu, ni mbaya.
My first encounter with the maritime space, actually, it happened while fresh out of college.
You studied?
No.
Oh,
My
wow.
first degree it wasn't maritime. I did a Bachelor of Arts, Geography, JS major. So fresh out of school, definitely what are you doing? You're looking for a job.
Yes.
Then I got, that's when I was first employed by Kenya Maritime Authority. Actually, it was an administrative kind of opportunity. But then while there, we had what my colleague Dorothy had mentioned, the Go to Sea campaign by IMO, where they were looking for potential graduates who are willing to now diversify their career to the maritime space. That is how I now had to go back to school afresh. 4 years. 4 years? Yes, for another bachelor's.
Ngoja kidogo.
Yeah. Because
you go for 4, then now sasa you start again.
Yes,
for
it's
4
like
years.
you just left high school, then you have this opportunity. It was an opportunity. Actually, at that time, if I had looked at it in terms of another 4 years, I think I would be regretting right now, because I think I've had so much fun in the field at a personal level. Yeah, so that time I had to go back to school 4 years, because the maritime space also, it's specialized. If at all you really want to be effective and have the knowledge you need to cover all the bases. As in, you can't just go in there and say, somehow I'll figure it out. You need to know, because it's also very specific in terms of what you are dealing with. Say an aspect like documentation. If it's a bill of lading, it has to be a bill. You can't invent some of these things. It has to be as per the global best practice. Also, the maritime industry, this is an international space. As much as you will be working within your country, but you will also have to work within the conventions that are there in place, the international best practices that are there as far as shipping and the maritime space is concerned. So after that, I finished my second degree now. Came back to Kenya Maritime Authority, and it's been it was a challenge in the first few 2-3 years, because this is something that I had just ventured into. Also, the way I said, you don't say I'll figure it out. You really have to know what you're doing, because here you are intervening in an issue that you have to guide as a regulator, considering Kenya Maritime is a regulator. You are not in business, you are a regulator. You have to play your impartial role as a regulator. So it was a learning experience, and I was very lucky because I worked under 2 gentlemen, my colleagues, and they were really patient with me. It's been a learning journey. I had to be ready to learn. Even though I had gone to school, I had the degree, but I had to be ready to learn. You need a lot of interactions with the industry. You just don't sit into your space and say, oh, I work for Kenya Maritime, this is what I'm supposed to do. No, the industry now is what builds you. The practices that are there in the industry, how do they differ from other countries? As now you see, Mombasa is the gateway to East Africa, meaning we are serving the transit region. How do their practice, how are we embedding their practice in ours? How are we bringing them on board so that we are in this sector as a region, as opposed to as a country? So there's a lot of learning. Even right now, I still I am still learning, because you will meet I call them the owners of the industry. They've been there, they've seen it all. So they know how the dynamics that this industry has gone in for us to get where we are. Like, I'll talk of cargo clearance right away, from people running around with papers, going to Forodha House to do their cargo clearance, right right now within the maritime industry, cargo clearance is being done at your desk. You're just doing an online process, all that. That is quite a transition.
Yes.
And for you to even appreciate that transition, you have to understand how did it all come to here. So, and then also the maritime industry, I've just realized it's an everyday learning and evolving in terms of right now some of the issues that have taken attention in the maritime, the issues of decarbonization, all in the space of climate change. Now, as the maritime sector, what are we doing? You see the way the discussions are evolving. So what does this mean? You need to keep touch with the industry. You can't be in your office and say that you are a regulator. We have a lot of engagements with the stakeholders. We have a lot of engagements with the development partners to understand how are we moving this discussion as a regulatory body. What kind of policies are we making such that as much as we are growing the region in terms of making Kenya attractive for trade and other opportunities, but also what are we doing in terms of complying with the best practices, with the conventions that are there in place? As a regulator, what kind of tone are we setting for our industry? So those are just some of the things you encounter every day. So for me, if I would say the maritime industry is an industry where you never stop learning. Every day is a learning experience. And I think I've really enjoyed it because every after a few months there'll be something new in the industry. So it doesn't, you don't get bored unless you want to be bored, of course. Yeah.
Nice. Before I go to Captain Peter, Dorothy, give us a little bit of your experience, how you joined Maritime and how the experience has been for you.
My story is a bit similar to Ella. After I did my first degree in telecom engineering, I got a job with Kenya Maritime Authority as a GMDSS operator. I used to work in search and rescue office. We used to receive messages for distress and safety. It's until the year 2010 when we got a scholarship. We were 4 of us. We got a scholarship and we went back to class. I did marine engineering. After I graduated in the year 2015, and I did the marine engineering is a course which needs for you to sail. So I started finding somewhere to sail, but for some time it was challenging to get a place to sail. Sometimes you could be told there's no vacancies, but this is something normal to the working space in every industry. Maritime is not left behind. It's until 2020 when I got somewhere to sail on board Regosop. Once I was on board Regosop, at first I was like, it's a bit challenging getting on board and getting so many people from different nationalities, new machineries to work on, different timelines. Working on board, you work in shifts. And you have 4 hours daytime and 4 hours at night, which you have to work. Especially the night shift was like a bit challenging for me, but with time I realized that it's becoming easier. I got used to it, and I'm happy. Usually after sailing, I come back to Kenya Maritime Authority because that's where I work. I work there as I do seafarers welfare, and with time, I've noted that with the seafarers, we need a space where we need to understand each other and talk, and give people a chance to say what they have, and listen to them. We listen to them more often. It has taught me how to listen to every person, their opinion, and before I say anything, I usually want to hear it's out of the seafarers' mouth so that I can know where to start from. Yeah.
Wow. So, Captain, how has the International Women in Maritime Day has it contributed to an increase in representation and participation of women in maritime?
Thank you. I'd like to take the case of Kenya and where we are probably in relation to the number of women employed on the vessels that we have. Initially, we used to we could even count on our fingers how many women we have in the maritime industry and how many specifically working on ships. It was a very small number. In Kenya, was for other countries also not doing so well. But I think ever since we have been having this sensitization, highlights, and promoting of women, even to the point where IMO took it as one of their goals to ensure that there are more women in the maritime. We have seen the number grow. There is interest, and that is always the important thing. Once you have interest, then we create the opportunity, then of course we will have the numbers. So we see a lot of interest, we see a lot of students enrolling at Bandari to take these courses, and I would say we are on an upward curve. We are really improving. Just last year, we had the first female officer. That means the first officer from Kenya who holds a certificate of competency issued by Kenya Maritime Authority. The first female. Her name is Harriet, and I was one of those who was involved in examining her, and I can tell you for a fact, compared to even the men we have out here, she is outstanding. So we are continuing to build that, and through this celebration of women in maritime, I don't even look at it as a celebration. I look at it as maybe a day when we create more awareness, when we highlight the goals that the women out here are doing in maritime, and so that it can be a source of inspiration for those who are out there, that even women can do this job.
Okay, so would you share some of the initiatives or programs that have been implemented by the organizations or the government in making sure that there's the equality and that women are empowered to work in the environment of maritime?
I think first of all, I think if you look at it, men and women, I normally don't like to put them in such groups, because when you look at maritime, it's not really like this is for men and this is for women. We don't have that in maritime. Only probably if you look historically, that women have not been. A lot of them have not been in the maritime.
In the maritime,
field.
yes.
It's not that they lack the ability; they do. And even now, when we are creating opportunities, I don't think we need to look at it as let us create more opportunities for women and not for men. No, we just make sure that there's a level playing field where even the women are able to be part of this sector. And we have the UMESA. We have the UMESA. They normally engage with the women. They go to schools, they go to universities, colleges to sensitize them. And for the government, the loans which are available for the students who want to take up these courses. In terms of creating opportunities for them, if you look at the hospitality industry, you will see that KMA has put a lot of focus to recruitment of officers and staff to work on ships from the hospitality industry. A large percentage of those in the hospitality industry are women, and through that, probably they have somehow an upper hand in terms of opportunities available at sea.
Oh, so tell us a little bit about WIMESA. What is WIMESA and what does it do, Eller?
WOMESA is a Kenyan chapter. This is an organization that stands for Women in the Maritime Sector, women managers in the maritime sector for East and South Africa. It's part of the initiative that was started by the International Maritime Organization as a way of now bringing women on board the maritime sector. For a long time, the women shied away. Now it's these particular initiatives. It's part of the SDG 5 of the UN Sustainable Agenda. So just bringing in the aspect of gender equality within the sector, and maybe just to highlight some of the activity that there are a number of chapters within the region, definitely for IMO member states. For Kenya, as a WOMESA Kenya chapter, they undertake awareness for students. They start all the way from high school, where they highlight the opportunities that are there for the students, mostly the girls, in terms of what is there in the maritime sector. Let's shift the thinking from the normal courses that we do, nursing, being a lawyer, blah blah. Let's also look what is in the maritime space, what is in the blue economy space. So they have this kind of engagements with students, and at the IMO level, International Maritime Organization level, they've come up with programs, training programs specifically designed for women, just to empower them and give them the management skills that they require to also take up the positions at management level. It's one thing to say, I want that position, but it's also one thing for you to have that qualification and also deliver. So even though we are doing I want that, but then there is also the aspect of, do you have what it takes to be given this position and to deliver on it? So they've designed a number of training programs which are usually there. Actually, they give more consideration to the women. These organizations are at management level, where they take women in different parts of the world. They bring them together. They bring in experts who take them through these intensive training programs, and we've seen these programs really bring out the best in the most managers in the maritime industry. If you look keenly, you will find that most of the women who are now at management level in the maritime industry, in one way or another, they've benefited from these programs that have been run by International Maritime Organization under their program for WOMESA.
We are going for another short break. It is 27 minutes past 10 a.m. When we come back, we're going to talk about what some of the challenges that women have faced or are still facing now in the maritime sector. And of course, we are going to look at what is the theme of the day, and what indeed are we celebrating, or what are we talking about today? What is the conversation? And I'm sure the conversation is the same worldwide. It's not just in Kenya. So we're going to talk about what conversation should we be having today, now that today is International Women in Maritime Day. Na nimeona tuko wengi wenye tuna believe in Stella. So we believe Stella.
Your story is legit.
The story makes sense. Tunaweza jipata hapo, hata labda wengine wetu tumejipata hapo. So we believe Stella. Captain, unataka kuongelelea boy child?
Boy child nitamongelelea upande wa maritime tu.
Hautaki kusema Stella ako tu sawa. This is the Blue Radio. It is around 18 minutes to 11 a.m. We are winding up the conversation about International Day of Women in Maritime, and we were having a very candid discussion. Now, back to Maritime. Let's talk about some of the challenges that women have faced and are still facing in the maritime industry. Dorothy.
The first challenge, it's not really a soft challenge, but it needs a lot of courage. The industry, especially the sea world, has a lot of men. Is full of men. So for you to get there, you need a lot of courage. You need to be sure what you are going to do, you need to be ready to venture into the world of men, because in case of cargo vessels, mostly you'll get men. You'll get like around 24, 23 crew, and you get 1 or 2 women, or sometimes you'll get none. So for you to venture into that, you need to have a lot of courage, and you need to be ready, because these are your counterparts. These are your fellow workers. You need to know how to communicate with them. You need to be ready to interact with them while working. There's no way you can isolate yourself from them. So you need a lot of courage to get into the maritime world and sail there for that reason. And there is another one, which is the duration that someone has to stay on board. But this is a challenge for both men and women. But I want to talk it from the side of the women. Most of the time, if you're not an officer, your contract varies from 9 to 11 months. For officers, it will vary from 6 to 4 months. Leaving home and going far where you're supposed to sail, and you will be with people who are new to you, and all you can see around you is water unless you are in the ports. You have that feeling that you're missing home. You're missing the people at home. There's something that's part of you which is not okay. But this is a challenge for all of us. But it affects more women, because there is that connection that women have more in the family than men. I'm not saying that men don't like the families, but there's that connection a woman has, especially for their families, than the men. And the third one I would mention is communication. When you are in other ports, you have to find a way to communicate, perhaps buying SIM cards from one country to another, which it's a bit challenging. Or when you are in the deep sea, you can't communicate back home. It is a bit difficult.
Captain Peter, do men also get the same challenges that she has highlighted? Communication, missing families, adapting. Do men equally have the same problems?
Thank you. Actually, I wanted to answer the similar question you asked her, but I'll combine the two. And I'd like to put it in a way that possibly now, if I had a daughter and she's asking to go to sea, if I would recommend for her to do it or not. And okay, to do it probably yes, but why wouldn't I, or what would be the disadvantages I would be giving her for not going to see what the challenges possibly she's going to face. And I think they're the same challenges I faced while at sea. It's not an easy thing to do, particularly if you're working on the cargo ships, not the passenger ships. You know, passenger ship is almost like you are inside a moving shopping mall. So it doesn't really give you the same experience.
It's interactive.
Yes.
You feel there's a connection.
Exactly. It's not the same as you would work on a cargo ship. On a cargo ship, it's the life. It's very lonely. You will be meeting the same 20 probably ugly faces every morning. And after the first 2 months at sea, most seafarers are not very normal, because it really does feel like you're in a prison somehow, because you can't go out, especially if you look at these times when we have a lot of security protocols at port. Even during the COVID times, the seafarers could not go to shore when the ship arrives at port. So you are stuck on the ship. You're doing a lot of hard work. So apart from the salary, you are probably more or less like how a prisoner would be. It's a challenging job, and I think that is the reality that people should have, especially when they are going to sea. They should not only look at the salary and think it is rosy. There is rough weather. You might encounter rough weather for almost a week, and in that week it's very difficult for you to sleep because the ship is moving around.
Oh my God.
And it's a small bed, so you are being pushed from one side to the other, and you're expected to sleep, and in the morning you still have to work, and you need to be fully focused on your job. And that is after you do a very hard job, you are very tired, you need to sleep, and it's that kind of rolling. So some look for an escape, drinking on board, so that they can drown all these. And I will tell you for a fact, the happiest day for any seafarer is on the day when they are signing off from the ship. So I think if I can put it in Kiswahili, tafakari ya babu. Why should that be the happiest day for any seafarer?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that needs to go into sensitization. Challenges are there, of course. You can overcome them as long as you are focused. You know what you want, and it's challenges are everywhere. And the good thing about maritime is it pays good money.
Okay.
So that can also be a positive for you.
Let's move on from the challenges. Let's go to the theme of the day, which is mobilizing networks for gender equality. Which are these networks that we are mobilizing, and how are they going to help us? And how are they going to help us understand or get to gender equality? Ella?
Okay, in relation to these year's themes, the networks we are mobilizing, I'm looking at these in terms of what are the different partners doing to just reach this goal of having gender equality. I had already mentioned earlier about the initiative that the International Maritime Organization has put in place, but now we are coming down to at regional level. What are the different players doing? What are the development partners doing in regard to the SDG 5? The Kenyan government, what kind of policy or programs are they putting in place, even with regard to recruitment processes when it comes to the ladies? What are some of those policies that look out, say, for the women when we have, like the case, women, as at some point in your life, you'll go through the mothering process, you'll be away from work. What are the kind of benefits, or rather, what are the kind of allowances are these women getting when they go off for the period for their maternity leave? When are they coming back? How are they being welcomed back into that environment? Just to make them feel they're still part of the team. You are a lady, but you're still part of the team. There are policies, there are measures that have been put in place so that you can come back, get back in the process. Now we have, like right now, our students who are undertaking the different training programs in the maritime sector. As we know, training in the maritime for the maritime opportunity, it's also not a cheap venture. It is very expensive.
Yeah, very.
So what are the different development partners doing? We can have funds being set up just to make it easy for the students who want to venture in this particular sector to undergo the training. The issue of now they've graduated, they need sea time. What kind of discussions is the country or the maritime sector in Kenya having with the ship owners in order to ensure that we have these, and even the discussions they're putting in mind, we might have ladies going on board these ships. Do they have facilities dedicated for ladies? Do they have sleeping places that are dedicated for ladies? Do we have bathrooms for ladies? Even we are looking at areas where, say, at the port, we have an area where the dock workers it's entirely dedicated to the dock workers. And the dock workers, we also have women there. Do you just go and you find one latrine that is being used by both? Come on, we all know even ladies will need a dedicated bathroom. We should have such facilities. So this is more of a discussion that needs everybody to bring in what they have to make sure that we are working towards achieving the SDG 5 on sustainable development under the Sustainable Development UN agenda. Thank you.
As we wind up, I'd love each and every one of us to answer this question. What do you think is the future of maritime in relation to having a gender equity or gender equality in the whole sector? Let's start from Dorothy to Peter.
When you look at maritime sector, we have a lot to do to bring the gender equality, because the number of readies on board, there are very few. When you look at it, is approximately 2-3%. So bringing it to 50%, because that is where gender equality is, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
We have a lot of awareness to bring the readies, to bring to the youth who are seeking the employment, to the young people who are still in colleges, so that they can get into the maritime. And once it's at this point, I want to think, I'm not sure when it will be, but once it's at this point, I want to think it will be an easy place to work on, all in, as some of the challenges we'll try to overcome them. Like what my friend has mentioned, maternity leave, which is something which is being looked at this point, especially for the sailing readies. These challenges will find a way to be solved. These challenges will find a solution unto them, and it will be easier to communicate now that we have people who have the same challenges, and to air out what you're facing.
What about you, Ella?
For my case, there's still a lot of work to be done. There is, I think the conversation has just gained momentum. There is a lot of conversation to be held, definitely at different levels. We have at government levels, at regional partners level, at international organization levels. We need to have this conversation. And then also, even now, this comes out as a challenge to the education, the Ministry of Education. You know, we've seen countries where the discussion about gender equality in women in the maritime sector has, like South Africa, it is at an advanced stage. Why? They start this way early, and there is a way they've inculcated it in their curriculum. You see, when you go to primary school, even high school, there is a program that specifically now takes care, even now they're not just going for the maritime industry, the blue economy. You see, the concept is introduced much early, such that even when these students are coming of age, they are very much aware of these discussions. So it's easy for the country to flow. Even the kind of policies that have been put in place, they're already being put, because it's already enshrined in their basic structures. So it's not easy, it's not hard for this to come in at policy level. So there's a lot of discussion that we need to have among ourselves, with other partners, and just even at organization level, we need to have those discussions. And we also, for the ladies, I think this is also a challenge in terms of, we are being given these opportunities. We should also be able to demonstrate that we are indeed deserving, because there is nothing bad as someone fighting for you, and then at the end of the day, you are just there seated. I mean, show that I deserved this. So we also have to be exemplary when we are given these opportunities. We have to really come out as we deserve this position. We can do better than this, and that is when now we even have the men supporting us in these our different initiatives. Thank you.
Wow. Captain Peter, as you wind up.
Thank you. For me, how I see it in the near future, because I want to look at the near future and the long term. In the near future, especially if we focus on recruitment of women in the hospitality industry, there is a very high likelihood that there will be more women seafarers in Kenya than men in the very near future. Maybe 3-5 years, there will be more women being recruited to work on ships than men. And then in the long-term future, actually the future of maritime, particularly in relation to operation of vessels, the field is changing. We are going to autonomous ships, so ships which don't have anyone on board, no operator on board, and of course that will lead to a lot of people losing jobs if we are not prepared as a country, looking at things not in the third world perspective, but living with the times as and how they are changing. Okay. So if we keep looking at the future, we can look at alternatives to just sending seafarers on board. And work with that. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, guys, for gracing our studios today being a very important day in your calendar, and we hope to see you more often. This is the home of Blue Economy, so we want to see you more and more and more, and even come to the
31st.
31st. We will definitely be there. Thank you so much. It is 1 minute to 11 a.m. It's a good time for me to head out, and I will be leaving you in the able hands of Ian Kipto, Palena MC Kirangi. See you tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow being Friday. I hope you have a nice day.
You're listening to Blue Radio, bringing the vibe, playing you the best of East